In this video, we're going to do a touch of review of the article from Greek 1, and we're going to advance that review a little bit by getting some more advanced grammar about the Greek article. So let's go ahead and start with a recall of the forms of the article here. So we're going to start with a lecture pause. If you remember back from Greek 1, I had you write these things on a whiteboard. If you have a whiteboard handy, by all means, use it. If not, just grab a piece of paper and jot down here to the best of your ability. So this is reaching perhaps way far back in your brain. It's probably been a long time since you have done this, since you've gone about listing out the different forms of the article. What I want you to do is do the very best you can without referencing any material whatsoever. And I want you to try to make a guess about every single block here. So all of the 24 different forms of the Greek article that you memorized so well in Greek 1, go ahead and see what you can recall from your memorization in Greek 1. All right, so this is what your full paradigm would look like. So go ahead and pause once again, looking to the video and self-correct yourself. So I want you to not only just sort of look and compare, but actually rewrite. So if you're on your whiteboard, erase it and write the right answer. If you're working with pen and paper, just scratch out the wrong answer and write back in the correct one. This does much more for your learning, recalling and then correcting yourself, than does just doing the comparison itself. All right, so now that you've done some retrieval practice on the forms of the article and some self-correction on the forms of the article, we're going to move on to some grammatical basics of the article that we talked about in Greek 1, just as a way of reminder. Again, retrieving or recalling that information that you have already learned and sort of bringing it back into your brain. So Greek has a definite article. Not every language does have a definite article, but Greek does not have an indefinite article. So not every language has an indefinite article, and Greek is one of those. So in English, our definite article is the or the, and our indefinite article is a or an. Greek does not have an equivalent to a or an, but we'll use some other things such as tis to function sort of in an equivalent way, but not exactly an equivalent way. So some peculiarities of the Greek article is that we often find it occurring with names, specifically names that are indeclinable. That is, they do not change their form, or they do not change their case depending on their function in a sentence. So they are still in different cases. These two Jesuses are in different cases, even though they look exactly the same as one another. And we know they're in different cases because of the article that is stuck before them. So this sentence means Jesus throws with the nominative singular definite article right here. So Jesus is the subject, the one doing the throwing, whereas bale ton Iesus with the accusative article right here indicates that Jesus is the object of the throwing. So as I mark sentences, they would look like this. So our second one would be he, she, or it. We don't know who the subject is. It's not given to us in the sentence. Throws Jesus. Jesus here is the object of the throwing. And further sort of peculiarities is that we'll often find the article in places where you might not expect it, and sometimes you won't find it in places that you do expect it. And sort of some of our advanced grammar might give you a better sense of why that is the case, but it's important to just recognize that you're going to find the article in unexpected places, and you're going to not find it in expected places. And lastly, the article is always going to match the noun that it agrees with in all three: case, gender, and in number. So to move on to a little bit of our advanced grammar here, we're going to get some sort of highfalutin grammatical terms out there. When you see the word arthrous or articular, this means a word that has the article. So these words are used to describe a Greek word that has the article with it. So ha Jesus would be said to be articular. Whereas if this ha was gone and it was just Jesus, this would be said to be inarticular or an authoress. So in and an are prepositions here that mean without. So a word that does not have the article. It's also helpful to recognize that the Greek article began life as a demonstrative pronoun. So if you look back and you compare your demonstrative pronoun paradigm with your definite article paradigm, you're going to see a lot of similarities in form between the two. And that's partially a result of this. But this also sort of helps to explain some of the functions of the Greek article. So a noun can still be definite. It can still have the or be translated in English with the, even if it does not have the article. This is because in English we just use the article differently than Greek uses the article. And so definiteness as a category in Greek is not necessarily determined by the presence or the absence of the article. Instead, the sort of primary function of the article in Greek is not necessarily to make definite, though that is one of its functions. The primary function of the article in Greek is to really conceptualize a thing that is already known, whether that be an idea, a concept, a person, or a thing. So it can it makes it into a concept and indicates that that thing is known. So a man versus the man. The man is a particular man who is known. And so related to this is that the definite article can turn any part of speech into a concept. So it's not the definite article is not only going to go with nouns, it's going to go with other parts of speeches as well. Participles, verbs, prepositional phrases, and the like. So here I'm going to give you, largely for your reference, we're not going to walk through all of these, the different uses of the article that you'll find in Black's grammar. So I give this to you as a way of sort of a handy reference tool for the different uses of the article, rather than having to go through Black's text to find these different uses. So if we are to say that the sort of main use of the article is to conceptualize a sort of more specific use of this is to particularize a specific object or a specific concept. This is the particularizing use of the article. Anaphoric is when the article refers back to something that has already been mentioned. A proper name, sometimes you'll see the article with a proper name to indicate the case. We talked about that already. The same thing with abstract nouns. You'll often find in English, we don't really like to make definite abstract nouns, whereas Greek does. So we would say salvation is from the Jews rather than the salvation is from the Jews or from the Judeans. Generic use of the article refers to an entire class or a concept. Possession. So we can have the article showing possession. The most normal way to do this, as you well know, is with the genitive, and specifically the genitive personal pronoun. There are also possessive adjectives. Another way that possession can be shown is simply with the definite article. So Paul stretching out the hand that is his, namely his hand. So a possessive use of tain right here. And then again, related to names, an indeclinable word that doesn't change its form will have the article to indicate its what case it is in. And then as a substantiver, the article can go with different parts of speech to make it into a concept or make it even into sort of the noun in the sentence. So for example here, ta thelein, this is an infinitive. Thelein, you notice that ain ending, present active indicative, and present active infinitive ending. By sticking the article right in front of it, it makes willing into an idea that can itself be a noun. So the willing, this now becomes the subject of periketai, which is present or lies within me. And then the same thing for this one, we have ta anabe. Here, Paul is referring to a specific word in the Septuagint. So he's saying, essentially conceptualizing this word to mean the statement he ascended. So literally, this is the he ascended. What is it? So what is the he ascended? Or if by conceptualizing this, by sticking the article in front of it, Paul conceptualizes it and makes it what is this statement he ascended, if not that he also descended, and so on and so forth. And then we see this in Revelation with a number of different kinds of parts of speech. So here with letters, ta alpha and ta o, or the omega. And then here, ta on is a participle. Ha ain here is an imperfect form of ami, so we have an indicative verb in this case, and then ha erkamenos, another participle. So these are all being made into nominative predicates. So ego here is the subject, and then all of these are, well, actually I should say these two are predicates, and then all of these ones over here are further describing, ha-on, ha-ain, and ha-erkamenos are further describing ha-theos. They are in apposition to ha-theos here. All right, and lastly, with respect to our advanced grammar of the article here, we're going to talk briefly about two grammatical rules. Again, these are both given to you in Black's book, but I want to sort of give you my verbal take on them so it might help you understand and conceptualize what is being said in written form in the grammar here. So the first one is called Caldwell's Rule, and what Caldwell's Rule states is that a predicate nominative, that is a nominative with the to be verb, remember the to be verb is sort of like this equal sign, where on one side we have a subject. So when we have two nominatives, one side is the subject, the other side is the predicate, but these can go sort of in either order. You can have the predicate over here and the subject over here, or you could also have the predicate and the subject on the same side of the to be verb, so that the to be verb could sort of follow the entire phrase. And what Caldwell Rule says is that when this predicate comes before the to be verb, it is usually anautherous. That is to say, it usually does not have the article, but it can still be definite. And I want to clarify that this rule has often been misunderstood to imply that when a predicate comes before the to be verb, that it is necessarily definite. That is not the case. So here in John 1:1, and the word was God. Here we don't translate God as definite, as the God, and you see that here the subject is halagos with this to be verb ain, and the predicate nominative is ha theos without the article. So we would not expect to have the article there, precisely because the predicate is coming before the to be verb, but this doesn't necessarily imply that ha theos is definite. It may or may not be definite. And then just another example of this here, we have apokrite auto Nathaniel. So Nathaniel said to him, Rabbi, su e ha theos tu theu, you are the Son of God. And then our Caldwell's Rule in question here, it's going to be right here. Su basalus e to Israel. So to Israel goes back with basalus, king of Israel. And notice right here, a is our to be verb in the second person singular, you are. And so here we have both the subject, which is su, and the predicate, which is basalus to Israel, comes before the to be verb. And so as per Caldwell's Rule, basileus does not have the article. It is an authoress, though in this case we would translate it as definite. You are the king of Israel, not simply a king of Israel. And then our second grammatical rule for the article with respect to advanced grammar is what's called the Granville-Sharp rule. Granville-Sharp rule states that if one article links two or more substantives, usually nouns, the subsequent substantives, that is, the ones that come second, third, fourth, further describe the first. So the first one is sort of the main substantive, and the other ones are going to give us more information about it. So the sort of chain is article, substantive, usually a noun, kai, and then a substantive without the article that's telling us more about this particular substantive. So ton apostolon, so referring to Jesus here, the apostle, kai archerea, and high priest of our confession. So here the high priest of our confession is telling us more. It's sort of unpacking the apostle right here.